Hi folks, it's me Michaela and welcome back to my channel. You know that if I am here before I am going to work that I am about to be starting a new reading vlog. And I'm so excited because it is currently the morning of May 7th, which means that two of my most anticipated reads for the year released yesterday. Those books are One Golden Summer by Carley and My Friends by Fredrik, two of my favorite authors. I've been so excited for both of these books to release, and I'm going to be reading both of them for a reading vlog this week, 10 days, however long it takes me to read them. But I'm very excited. So I'm going to be starting one of these today. I think I'm going to start with One Golden Summer just because it's the middle of the week and I feel like I'm wanting something a little more romance happy ending than what potentially my friends could be bringing me. Fredrik Backman is known to devastate me. He's known to make me cry. So I feel like that's not really the place I want to be while I'm on my lunch break at work. So I think I'm going to start One Golden Summer today by Carley, and I'll let you know my thoughts once I'm a little bit of the way through it. But this is following a story with Charlie, and Charlie is the brother of the main character Sam in Every Summer After. We're going back to Barry's Bay. We're gonna get to see where Charlie ends up in this whole story. We are following Alice. That's so funny because I was just reading Great Big Beautiful Life and the female main character in that is also named Alice. So we're following Alice, who I believe it's kind of there's slight crossover. This is a standalone. You do not need to have read Every Summer After before reading this, but basically Alice also kind of grew up spending summers at Barry's Bay, and she saw Percy, Sam, and Charlie kind of that whole story from a distance, and so now I believe it's her and Charlie's story. And Carley, similar to Emily Henry, she's a one POV romance writer, so this is going to be purely from Alice's POV, and Charlie is just going to be the love interest and he's the character we know. Alice is not anyone that we've met before, but I'm so excited for this. And the gold title for the Indigo exclusive edition is stunning, but I need to get to work, so I'm gonna start reading this today and I'll let you know my thoughts once I'm a bit of the way through, but I'm so excited. So I'm now 130 pages into One Golden Summer, so about a third-ish of the way through, and I read this in one day. I am zooming through this book, and guys, I just feel like Carley has done it again. I am so excited. I've been devouring this book. I've been loving this book. Like I said, you're following Alice. She's turning 33 this summer. She's a photographer in Toronto, and she's the middle child of this family that's full of very extroverted, loud family members, and she's kind of the quiet, people-pleasing one. She went through a pretty rough breakup 6 months ago and has kind of just dove into work to just work her way through it and pretend all of her heartbreak isn't happening. And when her grandmother breaks her hip and she's taking care of her, she decides to bring her grandmother up to Barry's Bay for the summer because she thinks it'll brighten her mood after her breaking the hip incident. And so she's spending the summer up in Barry's Bay with her grandmother, where of course she meets Charlie, who is the brother of Sam, who is the love interest of Percy in Every Summer After. Yes, super exciting. And so we find out that Alice, 16 years ago, the summer she was 17, was in Barry's Bay, and she watched Sam and Percy and Charlie kind of across the lake a bit from where she was staying. And of course now she's back. She's trying to become the person that she wanted to be when she was 17. She's trying to do all of the things that her 17-year-old self wanted to do but was too afraid to. She's not somebody who does things for herself, and so she's trying to do more things for herself. And really like come into her own. And it's just like, it's so good. Carley Fortune has this way of writing where she makes me nostalgic for something I've never experienced. Like, I have never had a cottage that I go to on a lake every summer. Like, I have never experienced that. And yet this book is making me feel nostalgic for summers spent on the lake that I have never done. It makes me feel like maybe I should. Let me become rich so I can just get a cottage by a lake and a car so I can get to my cottage on the lake. And then also have the flexibility to take the vacation time to go in my car to my cottage on the lake. Totally plausible. Anyway, but like she has this way of writing that's just like it's so good at like setting the atmosphere of Barry's Bay and the small town vibes and the lake and the just like that summer feeling. It's so good. It's so good. And I'm really loving Alice, and I also really love Charlie, and they have like this really great like funny bantery style to it. And I think like it's going to be really interesting seeing like how their relationship develops, because right now Alice is very like, he's so hot, damn, that's an attractive man, but also she's like, I don't want anything to do with no men, you know, because she's all like trying to soul search and find herself. And then like also her Nan is just kind of hilarious in a way, so I love that as well. So I'm gonna be reading more of the book. So far I'm loving it. I really feel like there's a potential for this to be a 5-star read. I did give This Summer Will Be Different 5 stars. I loved her release last year, and like this one is so good. I think I almost gave Every Summer After 5 stars. I didn't, because I wasn't a huge fan of the ending of Every Summer After, but I still really loved it, so can't be too mad. I think like if I end up giving this like a 4.5 to 5 star, like I'm gonna have to start saying that Carley Fortune is one of my favorite authors, because at that point I will have read 3 of her books and given them all 4.5 or 5 stars. And I think that's kind of like my threshold for you get to be in the area of my favorite author once like I've read and loved 3 of your books. I feel like that's a reasonable thing to set as like my threshold boundary. And like it's also more like individual stories. So like I really liked The Poppy War and read all 3 of the Poppy War books and liked all 3 of them, but I wouldn't call R.F. Kuang one of my favorite authors, because like the Poppy War trilogy is one story. So I'd have to read more R.F. Kuang before I would call R.F. Kuang a favorite author, you know? You get it? You get it. So those are the personal rules I made in my head. That's kind of unrelated to this vlog, but whatever, that's come up now. Yeah. Potential 5-star, super excited. I love when my most anticipated reads are delivering. This writing, it's like I can read this so fast, but it's not simple. And like, I think that's such a great thing to balance. Carley Fortune is making wonderful, amazing summer reads. You have like a romance. The story is like more literary. There's more going on than just the romance. There's always more development for the characters. There's always a bit more plot going on for the characters. And there's always like another relationship. Like in this one, you're also like exploring the relationship of Alice with her grandmother and her family members. In This Summer Will Be Different, there's a very strong emphasis on the female best friendship with the main character that I loved. So, you know, it has that added on top of it. And then like I said, the writing, it's like you can just breeze through it, but it's not like simple and basic. It's still really lovely prose. You can just zoom through. And so I'm having a great time. I'm loving it. I'm obsessed with this cover, and I'm obsessed with this book. I'm gonna see you when I've read more, okay? So I don't really want to be doing this right now because I have a headache, but because I have a headache, what I want to be doing is reading more of my book, but I can't read more of my book because I only have 100 pages left. So like I have to update you. Otherwise that's mean. Otherwise I'm failing at the vlog. So I'm 270 pages into One Golden Summer, so I have 100 pages left. So I was like, I need to update you before I finish this book, because boy, am I going to be finishing this book. I am zooming through this. If you are in a reading slump, I'm not even done this book yet, but I'm telling you, if you're in a reading slump, you need something to get you out of the reading slump, this. Also, look at how gloriously floppy this is. Ugh. A fantastic level of floppy. You can read this book, no qualms about damaging it, but also not having to like hold it half closed in order to read it without hurting the spine. But I'm like a little weirdo like that. I don't like to break the spine at all, so I'm too careful. So a floppy book is fantastic for me, but I'm gonna be finishing this book. I'm going to be finishing this book this evening, probably, most likely, like 100%. Like, I'll see you tomorrow morning. I'll be like, I'm done the book, and I loved it, probably, because I'm loving it. I'm loving it so much. I'm loving Alice's journey through this summer of deciding to, like, do things for herself and her own enjoyment instead of always doing things for others. I'm also loving the absolute disastrous, to my own heart, slow burn of this Alice and Charlie. This is slow burn that makes sense. It's slow burn that makes sense because like their character motivation for why they're being all slow burn about it makes sense to you when you're reading it. I mean, like, it doesn't make sense to me because I'm like, oh my god, just do it. Hello, just get together already. But hearing what the characters are saying, it makes sense. It makes sense. I don't like it because I want it, but then I do like it because I like the slow burn. The tension is so good. The tension of it is so good. And like throughout the whole book so far, there's been something that's like clearly Charlie has been like holding back from Alice. And of course, we don't know what it is because obviously we're reading from Alice's POV and she doesn't know. But I think it's something that like as the reader, it's the general topic of it seems very obvious to the reader, not like the exact thing that it is, but there's kind of like these little hints sprinkled around that make it pretty clear where we're leading. And I think it's done very well because if it was done too obviously, it would annoy me. And then if it wasn't done letting me know at least a little bit, then I would be upset because like I'm supposed to be reading this book and feeling happy, go lucky, lake summer vibes. And if they just started throwing tragedies at me and heartbreak like halfway through and I didn't see it coming, I'd be upset. I'd be upsetty spaghetti about that. So I'm loving it. I'm loving it. No notes. I have nothing to say. Well, I do have one thing to say. I think that this could have been edited for typos a little better because I have noticed a handful of times in which there's like a word that shouldn't be there or a word missing in a sentence. Like an it is there and it shouldn't be, or it says it instead of it's, you know, that kind of stuff. I have noticed probably about like 4 or 5 of those in the book, and that makes me a little mad because like that should not be in a published book that I'm spending my money on. There should not be typos to the point where I'm noticing them that much. But I'm not going to hold that against Carley Fortune and her writing because that's not her fault. That's the editor's. So I won't be mad at that. And also I'm like loving this and the characters and everything so much that I kind of just don't care. It's not making me not like it. Sometimes when books have a lot of errors like that, it like kind of really throws me out of the story. But I think also usually when books have errors like that, I'm not liking the book to begin with. So then it's just one more thing on my list to be mad about. And like I have 0 things on my list to be mad about for this book. So it's like, is that even worth starting a list for? I don't think so. I don't think it's even worth starting the list. So I have 100 pages of this left. I'm desperately dying to know how this is going to end because like I said, the slow burn has been burning so very slow but in the most delicious way. So I gotta see where Alice and Charlie end up, okay? Also, like, I'm just liking the Sam and Percy cameos and also loving Nan as the side character. I just love that there's like this trio for the whole summer that is Alice, Charlie, and then Alice is Nan. Like, it brings me so much joy. I love it. I think that is all I have to say. All good things, except for that one thing, which wasn't that good. But other than that, all good things. I'm going to finish the book. I'm going to let you know my final thoughts. Unless this ending completely flops, I don't see how One Golden Summer is not going to be a 5-star read for me. And it will anoint Carley Fortune to the favorite author club. I'm so excited. Stay tuned, baby. I finished reading One Golden Summer, like I told you I would. I am a lady of her word, so I did exactly that. Not that it was like that much work to finish it because I was loving it. And surprise, surprise to nobody at all, I gave it 5 stars. I give it 5 stars. I have nothing bad to say about this book. Carley Fortune is now officially like one of my favorite authors because I have read 3 of her 4 books and I have loved all of them. I need to go buy Meet Me at the Lake. Only one I haven't read. Need to get on that clearly because I'm gonna love it because I've loved all the other ones. So fantastic. I have to say this did go where I thought it was going for like the end of the book and how it was going to kind of like third act conflict and conclude. But that being said, like I still didn't guess like the details, which I think is what you want in this kind of romance. Like you don't want it to be a twisting shock surprise. You want to kind of know, but not know everything. So I think that worked really well and I really loved the way it concluded. I think that both like Alice and Charlie spent like the whole summer that they were together doing a lot of like personal growth and discovering themselves. And then they, you know, had to do that in order to be who they need to be so that they can be together too, you know? Like, and it's just like, it was just so good. And like, I just want to go spend like a summer on a lake now. Like, I need to go spend summer at a cottage reading more Carley Fortune books on the lake side, you know? This was just like perfection. I like almost wish that I read it more in the summer because it gives such good summer vibes, but I'm not mad that I read it immediately after it released either because it was so good. 5 stars, amazing, fantastic. Every time. This cover, obsessed. It's so good. And I think all of the like aspects of this were very well balanced. Like it's cheesy, but it's not too cheesy. It's funny, but it's not too funny. It's also a bit serious, but it's not too serious. It's like has these like kind of emotional moments, although it's like a romance between Alice and Charlie. There's so much discussion of Alice and her personal growth and her other relationships with her family members, and also of forgiving and doing things for us now, to be grateful for the time you have and to forgive and accept forgiveness and to appreciate friends and to support each other. And there's just like so much good. There's so much good to remind you to like really live life for you because you only have one life, you know? I could eat this up. Also, like, this made me, I'm like, I need to reread Every Summer After, because the Sam and Percy moments, I'm like, oh my god, Sam and Percy, and like talking about those summers past, and like, of course, those are the ones that like were part of like Sam and Percy's story, and it's just like, should I read Every Summer After again? Honestly, like, I would have reread Every Summer After before reading this, but it just like didn't happen. I was reading other books. I have too many books that I need to read and reread, but like now that I've read this, I'm like, should I be doing that? Should I be rereading Every Summer After? I mean, I want to, but I can't right now because, oh, Hooper, I sat on you, I'm sorry. I have another new release to read for this video. So I'm now going to be diving into My Friends by Fredrik Backman, and this is another one I have really like no idea what it's about, so I cannot give you any thoughts. I can't even give you an inkling of a synopsis other than that I assume is going to be about friendship. Yeah, guys, like my critical thinking, my deducing skills are like next level. So I'm gonna start this today. I was gonna start it earlier, but guys, I napped so hard. Ooh, it was a good nap too. But I'm gonna be starting this today, and once I have an idea what it's about, I'll come back, let you know my initial thoughts, and also let you know what this is about. Okay, we got a plan? Let's do it. Why, hello there. It's been a little bit of time because I have been making my way through My Friends by Fredrik Backman, but I also got really distracted because I started knitting the yoke of a sweater, so I've kind of been doing that instead of reading. But I am now like 130 pages into My Friends, so almost a third of the way through. I was thinking about doing more than my usual like third, 2/3 end update for this book because I really love Fredrik Backman and this is a bit of a chunkier book, but I was kind of reading it and I felt like I just kept needing to read more in order to really like understand what the plot was so I could explain to you what the plot was. And I think I've just come to the conclusion that this is really more of a vibes, not plot book. But the general plot is that there's like 2 timelines. We'll talk about that in a second. And you have the present day timeline of Louisa, who is a 17, about to be 18-year-old teenager who has run away from a foster home to like escape a difficult life. She goes to see this painting that she's always admired and has loved and has had a great connection with in person at an auction. So she sneaks into this auction, gets kicked out. She meets this weird man in the alleyway who seems to be homeless, finds out that this is not a homeless man, it's the artist of this painting that she's in love with and has, you know, inspired her entire life, blah, 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 blah. So then you're following the other timeline, which is the story behind the painting. So it's 25 years ago, and it's the artist and his group of friends when they were 14, 15, and how this painting that Louisa is, you know, talking about, and that is in the present day timeline, was his first painting, and it's of the sea, but it's really of the 3 friends. So then you're finding like the story behind the painting and then the present day storyline of what's happening now with the painting and Louisa. It's probably not going to be my favorite Fredrik Backman because it does have this dual timeline thing, and I'm not a huge fan of a dual timeline, especially when it's unexpected. I was not expecting it to be this. Fredrik Backman bounces around a lot with different storylines in like Beartown, where you're following a lot of different characters, but it's all like in the same time. So you're just seeing different perspectives of a singular story at like its one time period. This one where you're like jumping back 25 years, and then the next one you're present day, and then you're back 25 years ago. I'm never really a huge fan of those kind of style dual timelines because it feels like you're just inside one of them and then you're like leaving, and there's usually one that you care about more than the other, and it just like isn't my favorite style of story structure to read, so that's like kind of unfortunate. But his writing is still something that I absolutely adore, so I'm still very much enjoying the book. I think there's like a lot of very interesting discussions happening regarding art and being an artist and identity. The artist never has a name in the book. He's always just referred to as the artist. And there's kind of this sense in the whole book where because he's now famous and his art no longer belongs to himself, it belongs to the public, and the value in art, now that somebody has put like a monetary value on it, somebody said this art is now worth a lot, and how that compares to if you're just some guy on the street with the exact same painting, then it doesn't have value. There's like a lot of commentary on that, which I think is like really interesting, that also like this like loss of identity of the artist in himself because his work has become so popular. It's all like very intriguing. It's very thought-provoking. I'm not 100% sure like exactly where we're going with that, but so far it's just been like interesting to see kind of like the sprinkles of it. But yeah, I'm gonna read more of the book. I have to say, like, I think I'm liking the 25-year ago storyline with the 3 friends very much, and the present day storyline is fine, but like if this was just the past, like I would be 100% in it. So far I'm not really seeing the necessity of the current day timeline, but I'm sure that will come out, and I'm sure I'll figure out why it's there eventually. I also really am liking the fact that Fredrik Backman is describing this book Friends as the love of our lives. There's quite a few times where talking about these 3 teenage boys and saying how they loved each other and that he was the love of their life, but not in like a romantic way. I don't know, maybe it's going to become romantic, but so far it's just been like this platonic love and this idea that our love for our friends, like our friends can be the love of our lives, and the support they give us is just like something that I really have been enjoying. I think especially when talking about teenage boys and their relationships, just because I feel like there is a lot of misogyny that affects boys and men from feeling like they can actually express their feelings for each other and support and emotion. There's a whole thing. I don't really want to get into it right now because I kind of have to go to work, but I think it's something really lovely that Fredrik Backman is addressing this, like these teenage boys who have dealt with a lot of hardship and are very tough, but they still are very supportive. And also the difficulty in expressing those emotions and those feelings they have for their friends. So yeah, those are kind of like my initial thoughts. I'm going to be reading more of the book, obviously. I'm kind of really getting into it now. And I told myself I need to read this book and not knit quite so much. Because also it's the summer. What am I going to do with a giant wool and mohair sweater in August? Nothing. So I should really like slow down and take my time with that. But yeah, gonna go read this book. I really have to go to work. See you soon. Okay, wow, it's been a minute. I mean, like for you, it has in fact been no minutes, but for me it's been a while since I've done an update because I just got really busy, and then it was a long weekend, and then my parents were visiting, and then I got sick. I'm still sick, but I am still reading My Friends by Fredrik Backman. I actually am only still reading this purely because I got to the point where I only have about 100 pages left of this book, and I was like, I cannot finish this book without giving at least one more update before finishing. So I like paused my reading until I had time to do a video update, and here I am. Like, could I have done this during the weekend? Like, probably I could have. Like, I could have like overworked and like took time to edit a video and film these updates while my parents were visiting, but I just was like, I'm not going to do that because I haven't seen my parents in ages. And we were all in this one tiny apartment, and I was like, I'm not going to be filming while my parents are like here. Like, that's weird. That's weird. I need it to be just me while I'm filming. So here I am. But I have 100 pages left of My Friends by Fredrik Backman, and it's Fredrik Backman. So you know I'm loving it to a certain extent because I have to, because I adore his writing. Blah, 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 blah. I've said this many, many times. We all know this. I think like the current day plot in it is becoming more interesting to me. It's kind of like developed to be a bit more exciting, and I'm a bit more drawn into it. But I also still don't see the point of the present day plot. I just can't see where this is going that's going to feel meaningful, and how it's going to connect to the flashback plot. Because like when I'm thinking about it, it's like the flashbacks are the story behind this painting, and that's like the story about the artist and his friends during that summer, and you know, their relationships and what's happened, and like the development there, and how that kind of like ended up leading to this famous painting being created from such a, I don't want to call it basic, but just from like such a human experience. Like, it's just like this famous painting that was made by an artist who at the time he made it was 14 and very poor, and all of his friends were, and they were just kind of silly, stupid 14-year-olds who were trying to find a way to make better lives for themselves, you know? So it's like, that's like very interesting to think about and to see. And I think, like I said before, that the commentary on art and the value in art, what places value on art, what makes art valuable, as well as the like identity of artists, and how there's a sense that like an artist becomes their art instead of their own person. They lose their identity to their art, especially once it becomes such a like widely popular thing. And like, so all of that is like very interesting. However, I still to a certain point just feel like the present day plot is just this thing that's there so that Ted in the present day can be telling the story of the past, you know? And I'm just like not really seeing how all of this is going to come together. I am sure, because it's Fredrik Backman and I do adore his storytelling, that this is all going to come together in the last 100 pages. So, you know, I'm going to need to read the last 100 pages and then I can give you my final thoughts. I think overall, like, I really like the book. It's really good. It is feeling like a tad long. I think it could be a bit shorter. Like 440 pages is just like the very littlest long to me. But I think because of the dual timeline, like there is a bit more story to tell, even if I'm not necessarily understanding the point of one of those stories. You know, it is more story to tell, so it makes sense that there be more length. But I don't think it's going to be one of my favorite Fredrik Backman, though it's still going to be very good, and I still think I'll give it a very high rating. Like I said, I have been really enjoying it. I think it's just that like my benchmark for Fredrik Backman is just like so much higher expectations than any other author because I love him so much, you know? You get it. So I'm gonna go read the rest of this book finally. I am excited to finally finish this now that like I have the ability to actually finish it. And then I'll let you know my final thoughts. But yeah, okay. Hopefully the next clip I'm not sick anymore. I am in fact still sick. I don't know why I thought I would be recovered in like not even 24 hours. So that's kind of my own fault for being so utterly optimistic about that. So apologies for my extremely congested pressure in my head voice. This is what we're dealing with today. I did wash my hair and then put makeup on in an attempt to delude myself into believing that I was in fact feeling perfectly fine and healthy, but like that's just not the truth. Like as soon as I finish this clip, like I'm gonna go have a nap. But it is also like Sunday, so like this is the day to be having naps anyway. But before I go have that nap, I finished reading My Friends by Fredrik Backman, and I ended up giving this 4.5 stars. Now you're probably thinking that's like a really high rating for somebody who the entire time has had some qualms with this book. And you would be correct in thinking that. But as I said, as much as I was disliking the dual timeline and I wasn't seeing the point of the present day timeline in the book for a lot of it while I was reading, I had faith in Fredrik Backman to make it make sense and to give it the purpose. And he did. And it was a really good book. I really liked the ending. I think Fredrik Backman is very good at ending a book. I think he kind of wraps things up nicely, leaves enough things open, doesn't make it too like everybody's happy, everything's perfect. It kind of like it feels very like real for the like end of this story, but like life continues kind of vibe. And I think he did that really well with this book. Another thing that Fredrik Backman does really well that's also present in this book is he has this ability to at the beginning of the book in a way tell you exactly what's going to happen, but it's so vague that you actually don't know what's going to happen. And so you're reading this book and you're reading scenes and you're like, is this what he was saying? Is this what he was hinting at? Is this the reveal of that thing that he said at the beginning of the book? And I think that creates like a really nice amount of tension and also like callback to the beginning of the book for you. And I really like how he does that. It kind of like makes it like a twist when you get to certain parts of it, because he keeps things so vague that it's like, is it this person or that person? This happened, or did this happen, or did this happen? And it's not in like this way where you feel like it's on purposely being hidden from you just to be like, haha. Is kind of there to make you have those thoughts and those questions and like to make you feel those emotions that the characters are feeling before all the details are revealed. And I think he does that excellently well. I will say I kind of do wish that the purpose of the present day timeline was kind of seen and felt a little bit more throughout the whole book, rather than it kind of just all making sense at the end with this like secular nature of the story that is kind of like revealed through the story by finishing it. And like after finishing it, I'm kind of like, yeah, maybe I could have seen that coming, but I don't know. Maybe it wasn't that obvious. I think everything is obvious after you already know, right? Like hindsight's 2020 or whatever. So there is that. I have said throughout this whole thing, I'm not going to get like super into it again because one, I feel like I've already said my points, and two, my brain is functioning at like 60% capacity right now. So this is like not the time to be like deep and analytical about literature. But I will say the commentary on art and artists and identity and the value of art is wonderful, and I think it's very well done. My only thing that I kind of have against it, and having gone to school for opera and classical voice, I think this is like a topic and a conversation that in a way I have had before in an academic setting. So perhaps like that is why I feel a bit differently. But I do feel like the book, it a little bit promotes this idea that artists have to suffer in order to make good art. That the trauma and the suffering of the person is what makes the art good. And if like that person didn't have this difficult life, that they would not have created the wonderful art that they did. And I'm not like a total agreeer to that, because I think it kind of erases a bit of humanity from artists. And, you know, like this kind of goes in tandem with the idea of like once you make art, it belongs to the world instead of you, and artists kind of not having their identity anymore. Anyway, it's kind of like in tandem with that, of this sense that it takes away the humanity of the person, because you're just thinking like, oh, this art is so good because they suffered. And it's like, no, I think the art is good because they're good at art. And I'm not necessarily saying this is 100% what the book is saying. It's just a little bit what I got out of the book, just because all the characters in this book have had really tough lives. They've had very difficult life experiences and traumatic events and things happening to them. And so then to have the only representation in the book of artists be people who have had these difficult life experiences makes it feel like you can only be good at art if you have suffered. And I just don't agree with that. And I don't think it's something that is correct or should be promoted, because I think it takes away from the value of the artists to suggest that they're only good at art because they have suffered, and their art is better than everybody else's art because they have suffered. And it's not that they're a good artist, because I think people can express good and joy and happy things without ever having suffered that much, and it can still be wonderful art, and it can still speak to different people. But this is like a very long tangent for me now to be going on, especially when like my brain is not fully there. But like, I feel like you get what I'm saying. So that's kind of like my one qualm with book, is that I felt like it was kind of endorsing that idea a little bit, just by the absence of just a regular person who hasn't suffered that much and is an artist. So yeah, that's kind of like my thoughts. I will say like my general takeaway from this is that the book is a lot also about friendship and how our friends are the loves of our lives. Appreciate your friends and love your friends and do good things for your friends, because you can have platonic love in your life and it is so worthwhile, and it might be the best love you ever have. And that was kind of like my biggest takeaway from it, and I'm glad that I had that. So 4.5 out of 5 stars. Still not my favorite Fredrik Backman that I've read, because basically every other Fredrik Backman I've read, I'm pretty sure I've given 5 stars to. I have read Beartown, A Man Called Uva, and Us Against You. I'm going to read the winners soon, potentially for like a finishing series vlog. Question mark, keep an eye out. And I also really want to read Anxious People. But I'm really glad I read My Friends. 4.5, still an amazing, solid book, super thought-provoking, super emotional, and wonderful characters. So, you know, like, there we go. My wrapped up thoughts. Since I'm wrapping up the video, I guess I should grab the other book I read. But there we go. 2 of my most anticipated releases. Both were very successful reads. They delivered for me. And I'm very glad that I decided to read them. Not quite immediately, because it took me a while. It took me about 2 to 3 weeks to read these books, but I had unforeseen circumstances delaying me. Okay, it wasn't my fault. Loved both of these books. Would love to know if you've read either of these books and what your thoughts are on them. Do you think you might pick one of them up now after hearing my thoughts on it? Let me know. If you happen to like this video, make sure to give it a like, give it a little thumbs up. Happen to like me, consider subscribing. I'd be happy to have you. And with that, I hope you're having a wonderful day today, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.